The roar of engines echoed through the Norman countryside on June 13, 1944. Sergeant Stan Lockwood gripped his Sherman Firefly's controls. His tank sat hidden at Place John d'Arc in Villers-Bocage. The long barrel of his 17-pounder gun gleamed in the morning light. Lockwood had no idea he was about to face Germany's deadliest tank ace. Michael Wittmans' Tiger lurked just meters away. But this story really begins 2 years earlier. In the desperate workshops of 1942, British engineers faced a terrifying reality. German tanks were crushing Allied armor with ease. The Tiger I mounted the fearsome 88mm gun. It could punch through 156 meters of armor at 500 meters. Allied Sherman tanks were helpless against this monster. The standard 75mm gun couldn't even scratch a Tiger's front armor. Tank crews whispered about the dreaded 88 in hushed, fearful tones. In North Africa, entire formations refused to advance when Tigers appeared. 2 British officers had a crazy idea that would change everything. Major George Brighty and Lieutenant Colonel George Witheridge proposed the impossible. They wanted to mount Britain's massive 17-pounder gun inside a Sherman tank. Everyone said it couldn't be done. The 17-pounder was huge, designed for fixed artillery positions. Its ammunition was twice the size of normal tank rounds. The British Army rejected the idea completely. They expected their new Challenger and Cromwell tanks soon. Why waste time on this engineering nightmare? But Brighty and Witheridge wouldn't give up. Allied tank crews were dying every day. They lacked the firepower to fight German armor equally. The 17-pounder could penetrate 163mm of armor at 500 meters. With special rounds, it could punch through 256mm. On paper, it could kill any German tank at any range. The first attempt was almost comical. Major Roy Kilburn simply bolted the gun to the turret. He eliminated the recoil system entirely. The first test shot nearly destroyed the tank. The massive forces almost tore the Sherman apart. Back to the drawing board they went. The solution required completely redesigning everything inside. The recoil system was shortened and rebuilt. The gun was turned sideways for easier loading. The radio moved to an external armored box. The co-driver's position disappeared entirely. His space became ammunition storage for the huge rounds. By early 1944, they had created something special. From a distance, it looked like a normal Sherman, but it packed the firepower to challenge any German vehicle. The timing was perfect. Allied intelligence had discovered something shocking. Panthers weren't rare, heavy tanks, as previously thought. The Germans were building them in huge numbers. Their front armor was virtually impossible to penetrate. General Montgomery needed tanks that could hold their own. The Firefly was rushed into production immediately. By May 31, 1944, 342 modified Shermans reached Montgomery's forces. The Sherman 5C carried the hopes of every Allied tank crew. 1 Firefly per troop became standard practice. For the first time in years, British tankers had equal firepower. The 17-pounder's accuracy was incredible. Gunners hit targets at 1,200 yards repeatedly, but the weapon had serious drawbacks too. The muzzle blast kicked up enormous dust clouds. It revealed the tank's position after every shot. The recoil jarred the entire crew violently. Loading the massive rounds was exhausting work. The rate of fire dropped compared to standard Shermans. German tank crews quickly learned to spot the long barrels. They received specific orders to target Fireflies first. This recognition proved the weapon's effectiveness. Firefly crews learned to disguise their distinctive guns. Some painted fake muzzle brakes on the barrels. Others used camouflage nets and foliage. Survival depended on maintaining surprise until engagement. The element of shock was their greatest advantage. German crews had never faced this threat before. Now, back to that morning in Villers-Bocage, Michael Wittman had already destroyed several British tanks. His Tiger prowled the main street, seemingly unstoppable. The SS officer had over 130 confirmed kills. He was Germany's most feared tank commander. His confidence seemed completely justified that morning. Wittman's rampage through the British column was devastating. 8 half-tracks and 4 carriers lay burning. The psychological effect was crushing. But when he reached the western end of town, everything changed. B Squadron was better prepared than the surprised troops earlier. Most importantly, they had fireflies in position. Lockwood spotted the Tiger crossing his field of fire. He immediately swung his turret to engage. The 17-pounder roared its defiant answer. The armor-piercing round struck Wittman's Tiger hard. Visible damage appeared on the frontal armor. The German ace's vision was disrupted. For the first time that morning, Wittman faced effective return fire. His driver swerved into a brick wall. Debris crashed down on Lockwood's tank. This was the moment German crews had been warned about. An Allied tank that could hurt them at normal ranges. The days of easy victories were ending. Captain Pat Dias seized the opportunity immediately. His Cromwell charged forward, firing 75 mm rounds. Both shots hit, but failed to penetrate. Wittman's response was swift and deadly. The 80 mm gun spoke once more. The high-explosive shell killed 2 crew members instantly. But the damage was done to German confidence. The Firefly had proven its worth in combat. It could engage Tigers on more equal terms. Recognizing his position was becoming dangerous, Wittman withdrew smartly. His lone Tiger had achieved remarkable success, but continuing without support meant certain destruction. As he attempted to escape, Sergeant Bobby Bray's anti-tank gun waited. The 6-pounder crew had positioned themselves perfectly. Their shots disabled Wittman's Tiger completely. The German ace abandoned his vehicle on foot. He headed toward the Panzer headquarters at Chateau. The morning's action had cost both sides heavily. British losses were devastating. 217 casualties and 20 tanks destroyed. A squadron virtually ceased to exist as a fighting force. But German losses were also significant and harder to replace. 6 irreplaceable Tiger tanks were destroyed that morning. More importantly, German armor superiority had been challenged successfully. The psychological balance was shifting. The tactical implications extended far beyond immediate casualties. German crews throughout Normandy now faced a genuine threat. They could no longer assume automatic superiority. Allied tank crews gained something more valuable than firepower. They gained hope and confidence. The terror of facing Tigers began to fade. The Firefly program demonstrated the power of adaptability. While Germans developed entirely new tank designs, British engineers modified existing vehicles effectively. This pragmatic approach achieved comparable battlefield results faster. Innovation didn't require starting from scratch every time. Smart modifications could be just as effective. From a strategic perspective, Villers-Bocage proved both potential and limitations. The 17-pounder was clearly effective against German armor. But the Sherman conversion had inherent drawbacks. Reduced crew size and slower loading affected performance. Fireflies required careful tactical employment as specialized tank destroyers. They weren't general-purpose combat vehicles. British commanders learned to use them wisely. 1 per troop provided each unit with anti-tank capability. This distribution ensured Germans faced effective opposition everywhere. The German response evolved throughout the Normandy campaign. Tank commanders engaged at maximum range when possible. Anti-tank crews prioritized Fireflies as targets. But the damage to German confidence was irreversible. No longer could they assume their superior armor guaranteed victory. The rules of tank warfare had changed permanently. Records show Fireflies achieved numerous kills throughout Normandy. They successfully engaged Tigers, Panthers, and other German armor. The 17-pounder became arguably the war's most effective Allied tank gun. The Sherman Firefly story represents triumph of practical engineering. While German industry pursued complex, expensive designs, British engineers created a war winner through smart adaptation. The result fundamentally altered armored warfare's balance. For German tank crews who had dominated since 1939, the Firefly marked their superiority's end. Confident assumptions built over years of conquest crumbled. A gun they never saw coming, mounted in a familiar-looking tank, shattered their dominance forever. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy looks familiar, but carries a surprise that can kill from distances you thought were safe. The Sherman Firefly proved this truth definitively. The difference between victory and defeat came down to 17 pounds of high-velocity steel, striking exactly where needed, at exactly the moment that mattered most.